In this video, I'm going to take a look at some tips and tricks to assist you in Apex Legends. These bits of information will improve your game, but might require a little bit of practice to implement and consistently pull off. And of course, some of these tips are slightly more advanced, so maybe you haven't come across them yet at all. Let me know in the comments if you have, maybe leave your own tips and tricks for other people to read as well. Let's get a bit of a conversation going in the comments section. First off, something that I found really useful in Apex Legends, and again a tip that really saved me during gunfights. Looting fresh armor, even if it has a lower value, can be a lifesaver. If you're in a fight and the enemy player shooting at you destroys your armor, sometimes it is best to loot a fresh set of armor from a death box or surrounding area just to ensure you get a bit of extra shielding immediately. It doesn't even matter if the shield is a lower value. For example, your purple shield gets shot off, or maybe it's got 1 bar of health left, and then you pick up a blue shield that's on full HP. You don't have to heal, it's super quick, and you can always go back to that purple shield later on, pick it up, and then re-heal it. A more advanced tip that maybe you can implement is called the fast weapon switch. Tap your crouch button while selecting a new weapon or cycling weapons in order to speed up the way you switch weapons. It is so much quicker. It's incredibly strong with double peacekeepers. I've put a couple of examples in the background, but you can also use it with normal weapons. You're firing your R301, it runs out of ammo. Instead of reloading or switching weapons, you do the quick switch, and you almost pull out your other gun immediately and continue to sustain fire on the enemy. Wall jumping is quite a tricky thing to learn in Apex Legends. However, it is completely possible, and once you have learnt it, it's not that difficult. It's just getting the timing down that people struggle with. I myself took quite a while to learn this, and I can't really do it in game yet. I haven't quite got that muscle memory down, and I haven't found myself in a situation where it's useful, but it is good to have as part of your arsenal of weapons and things you can use against the enemy team. You need to use your momentum to run into a wall and redirect the other way. So essentially, as you can see, I'm sliding and jumping, and at the top of my jump, I'm then facing the wall and clicking spacebar again, or jump, whatever that is, on the console and pushing away to the other side. You can actually go pretty far doing this and then incorporate a slide into the other side. For those good players, this is a really, really nice tactic that you can use to bamboozle enemies that are chasing you or possibly just a little bit behind you. Now for a little tip on movement. A simple movement tip, but one that everyone should take note of. When landing on the ground, either after jumping from a ledge or landing from the balloon redeploy, make sure you crouch just as you hit the floor and you'll be put into a slide. This is really helpful if you want to keep momentum. Kicking open doors is something that a lot of people forget you can do in the game, and you see it all the time on Reddit when players get trapped in rooms and then Caustic throws in his big gas traps. People can kick those doors down really easily and escape. There's no need to stand there, and maybe there's a death box in the way or even a downed player. You can kick your way through the door and make your way through the building that way. A quick tip for any players who use Mirage: when dropping in, ping a few decoys out in front of you to trick the enemy into thinking there are more enemies dropping on that position. It's actually more useful than you might think. Use Bangalore's smokes in combination with a Bloodhound who uses their ultimate ability, and then if you have one, take advantage of the digital threat scope to see through the smoke itself. You can destroy Caustic's traps, shoot the red part of the trap and they explode, but do not give out a harmful gas. You can heal and recharge shields while sliding. This is quite obvious, but many people don't do this and wait until they've reached the base of the slope. It's also a great time to reload weaponry as well. Make sure you've always got both your weapons reloaded for engagements. Now, there is a way of incorporating a weird bunny hop into your healing after a slide. I haven't worked it out myself, and to be honest, it's not something I'm going to be messing around with, but for anyone who's maybe at the top of their game and quite an advanced player, there are many tutorials online how to do this, and it's a really nice skill to be able to have. Make sure you try and move around whilst looting. On console this is not possible as far as I'm aware, however you can still smoke the loot boxes if you have a Bangalore for that extra safety. There's nothing easier in Apex Legends than coming across a team that's just had a fight, they're all low on HP, and then they start looting the box of the fallen enemies. They're all standing still and you can just snipe them in the face. If they're moving around, or maybe if they'd smoked the area first, you'd have a harder time. Linking into that, you do not want to loot straight after killing an enemy or enemy squad unless it's absolutely necessary. When you do jump into their loot box, only pick the essentials, get back out the loot box and have a look around. The worst thing you can do in Apex Legends when looting is spend too much time and start to look for every single little thing that you need. Dip in there, take what you need. Body armor should be the first, ammo maybe if you're after that after an engagement, and then look for little things like attachments and maybe grenades and anything that you might need on top of that afterwards. The worst thing you can do is actually get killed while looting, because what's the point? A nice simple tip that I've definitely started using in game is making use of the doors that you find in areas such as artillery. These are the rising electric doors that you can jump on top of, click E or whatever the button is on console to open a door, and they will rise you up to the roof section. This is really useful as some of these areas are difficult to gain access to unless of course you're a Pathfinder, and sometimes it will really give you an advantage on the enemy team. If you're also trying to get away from an enemy, you can stand on top of one of these doors on the outside, and as they open the door from the inside, you will rise up above them. As they run out, you can shoot them in the back of the head. Slide jump, use the balloon to relocate, flank, flush out buildings. Don't be afraid to continuously move around in Apex, as camping is a really ineffective tactic, not only when it comes to winning fights and games, but also when it comes to having fun. You also want to keep momentum when playing the game, as this will certainly assist you in fights. It's the same in pretty much any FPS game. If you're standing still camping in a corner, you will get surprised by enemies pushing you because you're not looking out and you start to get lazy. If you're running around constantly searching for enemies, trying to find them, you'll more often than not get the jump on them and you'll have the advantage. When it comes to slide jumping, this is something you really want to be doing. Slide on the floor with a little jump afterwards. It boosts your momentum, you go a little bit faster. You just have to wait for that slide to recharge because you can't consistently spam it. Slide down hills, jump off ledges into slides, and again, use that balloon to relocate. There are plenty of them around the map, and they're super effective. If you have a Pathfinder, make sure again that you are throwing those zip lines down whenever you can to get over tricky areas such as the canyon where the river runs through. You don't want to be running down there if you can avoid it, because one, you're lower down, so you're in a position of weakness compared to enemy players above you, and two, it's fairly slow because you can't slide or jump anywhere near as well down in that water. Now for a little bit more information on when to push in Apex Legends, when to take on fights and try and flush out enemy teams. This is quite a tricky one, and it really depends on your ability as a player. In my opinion, the most important thing in a BR game is to stay alive. If you can avoid dying, you have a pretty high chance of winning. Apex Legends has a long time to kill, meaning enemies will soak up a lot of bullets before falling over, and this often leads to players thinking their enemy is on low HP, when in fact they are not. I've got some examples in the background of where I've pushed when I shouldn't have, and then our team has wiped. It seems like a good opportunity for me to get some kills. I do knock players, but then another enemy appears. I then call out in comms, although you can't hear it, that the enemy is low. My teammate pushes as well, and then we all die. There are a few signs that you need to look out for in Apex Legends. The game gives you a nice cracking sound when an enemy's armor has broken, and assuming that enemy doesn't have a fast heal backpack or enough time to recharge their shields, you can be pretty accurate in assuming they have 100 HP or less. They also might be healing, meaning you can get the jump on them. Have you knocked an enemy in a 3v3 fight, causing it to be a 3v2? Have the enemy team retreated to pick up their downed teammate? You can push to kill them, or even use that opportunity to run away or recharge your shields in what many players call a reset. Reduce the risk of dying and profit. Take advantage of enemy players that get too aggressive and isolated from their team. One major mistake I was making in Battle Royales for the longest time, and this was compounded in Apex Legends, was running into buildings chasing after enemy players. That's a big mistake. The buildings in Apex Legends are designed quite differently to other Battle Royale games. Most of them have holes in the roof, so when you jump on top, you can shoot through at camping enemies. You are exposed to other people around you. Of course, you're outside and not inside the building, but it's definitely a better position to be in when attacking a building instead of running through the door. The reason for this is obvious. An enemy will run into a building and you'll chase after them. They're going to know exactly where you're coming from and have almost certainly turned to aim at the door. Also in Apex, don't kill downed players straight away. As with other games such as PUBG, downed players can be used as bait to kill enemies, and often get you killed if you start shooting them, as it diverts your attention, and of course you have to reload. Be wary though, these downed enemies can transfer information to their team, so possibly it's sometimes a good idea to kill them if maybe there's a large distance between them and the enemy team, but don't get hung up on the fact that you might lose out on a kill if your team wipes and this downed player then gets picked up. Focus on the battle and the most important things. Use and abuse grenades in Apex. Throw them to block paths, burst shields down, break lines and kill downed or reviving players. The arc stars are really strong in this game. You can stick them to walls next to enemy players, you can block paths, as I said before, doors can get blasted off with the frag grenades. It's a really good tactic, and just use grenades whenever you can. I know sometimes it can be difficult to maximise the amount of ammunition you're taking in your backpack if you've also got a load of grenades in there, but sometimes you just have to find that balance, and grenades definitely have a lot of utility in the game. Ensure you have cover and make use of ultimate abilities to give you a get out of jail free card for the entire team. Wraith's Portal, Bangalore's Barrage, Pathfinder's Zipline. These things all have serious utility in firefights, even if it is just to get away. You have to remember the most important thing is to stay alive. Running away is sometimes the best tactic. Play from cover. As in any FPS game, cover equals safety and a chance to recharge your health. No cover equals no recovery, and a huge responsibility on you to kill the enemy shooting you. As in most FPS games, positioning is key, and then the rest of it will often take care of itself. Don't alert an enemy team unless you know you can down one enemy. I'm talking about that situation where you spot an enemy team maybe looting 200 meters away from you, and you shoot one shot, you hit him in the leg, you do 20 damage, and then they run off. There's no point in doing that, you've just given away your position, and they're going to get into cover and then cause you a real problem. It's even worse to do this if you're not inside the next zone, as they'll often gatekeep you and block you from getting in. Get in position, push aggressively as a team, and down one of the three enemies. A 3v2 is a very strong position due to the potential for a flank and the additional firepower. One can heal whilst the other's 2v2, that sort of thing. Use the circle to your advantage. Circle damage is low, so feel free to dip in and out to gain a positional advantage, but also consider what it does to the enemies and the path into the circle. This was a major tactic in PUBG as players get pushed by the zone and a superior team, or sometimes lucky team, will gatekeep them and use the zone like a fourth or a fifth teammate. The zone will push that team in and they'll be very wary of retreating back into the zone, so they'll almost run at you without too much knowledge of you being there, and to be honest they just want to get into safety. You can then gun them down and it's a great way to get more kills. A few tips when using the ping system. Make sure you spot high tier loot items, or in early game, spot things such as weapons and armor that your team might make use of. If you want the item in question, you can put dibs on it by reacting to that ping. You can also ping items in loot boxes for teammates and also request certain items by pinging them in your own inventory. This is really useful if you're after a certain hop-up or an attachment. You can say to your teammates, that's exactly what I want, even if you're on comms with them. Sometimes it's useful just to use the in-game system, as it's really, really good. A simple bit of advice to round off this video, but it's a really effective move, and a bit of a try-hard move I think, is to turn off the in-game music. Now the reason for this is when you drop into a game of Apex Legends, the intro music is still playing, and that will impact your ability to hear footsteps. Now this is super try-hard, and the intro music is actually really good, so sometimes you might want to keep it on. I've turned it off just so I can have videos with no music in the background, and then I can put my own music over the top. I did the same in every Battlefield game I've played in the past, but for some people who've played Apex and maybe they can't hear footsteps at the start of a round that clearly, I'm betting that it will probably be the music that's interfering. Turn that music off, or at least turn it down, and then benefit from some better audio. Thanks for watching this video. That's all of my advanced tips and tricks for the game. Hopefully this will help you if you're looking to win more gunfights and gain more wins for your team. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to leave, any other tips that might help players. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.